Hey everyone, it's Jen Fishburne. Welcome back to my show, Preterism Changes Everything. So we have finished the first two chapters of Genesis and the first two creation accounts. Whether you consider them to be one or two doesn't really matter to me, but I like to just see ways that I can kind of weave these kind of things together, and that's just how my mind works. So we're ready to go on to chapter 3 today, and we're not going to get very far. We're only going to get to the third word, but let's go ahead and read the first verse, all right? Now the serpent was more crafty than any other beast of the field that the Elohim Yehovah had made. So let's take a look at the word serpent a little bit today. So, was it a snake? Well, I think a lot of people kind of equate serpent with snake, but I'm not sure that it was exactly the same. The word for serpent in the Hebrew is nakash, and that really just means serpent or viper. So if you think of a viper, at least if I think of a viper, it's more of a bigger snake, the one that has the head that comes up out of the ground. It's a much bigger head, much more poisonous, that kind of stuff, but it's still a snake, right? But let's see what the Bible says. So what we're going to do today is we're going to take a look at how nakash is used in most of the passages in the Old Testament, not all of them, because some of them are just redundant. And then there's a couple that just that don't have any, that don't give us any meaning at all. But we just want to kind of see how this word is used to give us an idea of what we're really looking at here. Okay. So a couple of these I didn't write down the passages because I didn't feel that we needed to look at all of the verses where it was talking about this, because I think that you know that when Moses was getting ready to go see the Pharaoh and ask him to let my people go, when he threw his rod down on the ground, when Yehovah first told him to throw his rod down on the ground, and then when Moses actually did so in front of Pharaoh, that it became a serpent. Now, what kind of a serpent did it become? It became a serpent. We all agree, I think it's pretty well across the board that we can agree that that serpent was really just a serpent. That's what the rod became. All right, so now a little bit farther on in the story, then, after Israel had left Egypt and they're out wandering in the wilderness and they're complaining, and Yehovah gets tired of them complaining, so he sends these fiery serpents in after them, and they bite and kill the people. And so then Yehovah told Moses to make a bronze serpent and put it up on the pole, and that way when the people were bit and they looked up at the bronze serpent, that they would be healed. So what was that? Those were serpents. Those were really serpents out there biting and killing people. And I think that's one of the keys that we're going to see, is that these kind of serpents, they did a lot of biting and a lot of killing. They were very venomous, very poisonous. And so of course we know that serpent up on the pole was a picture of Jesus later on, but we're going to get to that when we get to that part. All right. So then, in case we're not sure if those were really serpents or not, 1 Corinthians 10:9, Paul tells us we must not put Christ to the test, as some of them did and were destroyed by serpents. So he's telling us about the same incident right here. So they were actually testing the Lord, and they were destroyed by biting poisonous serpents. All right, Psalm 58, verses 3 through 5. This one gives us just a little bit it describes what serpents are. The wicked are estranged from the womb. They go astray from birth, speaking lies. They have venom like the venom of a serpent, like the deaf adder that stops its ear, so that it does not hear the voice of charmers or the cunning enchanter. So the serpent here, first of all, has venom, so it's poisonous. That venom is just the same as speaking lies. So it's kind of giving us a new, it's giving us a parallel, not a parallelism. It's just giving us a description of what that serpent is like here as well. It also is saying that it would plug its ears so that it couldn't hear the snake charmers, because the snake charmers were so good that they could make the snakes do whatever they wanted them to do. So this kind of an adder, basically, a snake, was like it was deaf. So it's just giving us descriptions here, what we're looking at. Very, very venomous, that they were also made to obey the snake charmer. All right, let's look at Psalm 140 verse 3. This is speaking about evil men. They make their tongue sharp as a serpent's, and under their lips is the venom of asps. So again, lots of venom again, and a sharp tongue. Proverbs 23:32. Let's say that again. Proverbs 23:32 is talking about wine. In the end, it bites like a serpent and stings like an adder. So same thing, bites and stings. Proverbs 30 verse 19, 3 things are too wonderful for me, 4 I do not understand. The way of an eagle in the sky, the way of a serpent on a rock. We don't need to go to the others because all we need to know about is a serpent. So does a serpent slither over a rock? Is it difficult to understand that with our minds, how that is working? So that gives us a pretty clear picture of what that is going on there. Ecclesiastes 10 verses 8 and 11, just so we can pick out the serpent parts here. He who digs a pit will fall into it, and a serpent will bite him who breaks through a wall. If the serpent bites before it is charmed, there is no advantage to the charmer. So if you dig a pit and you fall into it, there might be a snake down there. That's pretty clear. And then again, talking about the snake charmers. Jeremiah 8:17, Jehovah is talking about a curse. For behold, I am sending among you serpents, adders that cannot be charmed, and they shall bite you, declares Jehovah. Now, I did look at this whole passage, and you're welcome to look it up. And I looked to see, okay, is this a metaphor or simile, or is this literal? And as I was looking through the whole passage, it seemed to me that it was literal. He was also talking about what he was going to do to their horses and things like that. And so this was, they were literal curses, that just a whole list of literal curses that's going on in Jeremiah 8. So you're welcome to look that up and see if you see something that I don't see there. So far, it sounds to me like these are a real serpent, a real viper. They have a lot of venom. They bite people. They kill people. They can be charmed by a snake charmer. They live on the ground or under the ground. They slither over rocks. These are the kind of descriptions that we can see just looking at other passages in the Bible that tell us about what this serpent is, okay? Now, this one's interesting. In Job 26, this is Job speaking. And of course, he's not happy. He's not happy in the whole book, is he? But in this section here, I wanted to read you several verses because he's talking about creation as well as a serpent. So let's listen to what he has to say about creation. I think he gets the creation parts right. I think most of the things in the book of Job are correct. It's just the way they're applied are applied incorrectly. But of course, we're going to get to that when we get to the book of Job. All right. He, Jehovah, stretches out the north over the void and hangs the earth on nothing. He binds up the waters in his thick clouds, and the cloud is not split open under them. He covers the face of the full moon and spreads over it his cloud. He has inscribed a circle on the face of the waters at the boundary between light and darkness. What is that? I think I know. I'm going to let you guys guess. Go ahead and put in the comments if you want to tell me what is the boundary between light and darkness that is inscribed on a circle on the face of the waters. The pillars of heaven tremble and are astounded at his rebuke. By his power he stilled the sea. Okay, here we go. This part I want you to hear for the serpent, okay? By his power he stilled the sea. By his understanding, he shattered Rahab. It says Rahab, probably in your Bible, but it's not the same Rahab who was the prostitute. This is Rahab, and which we're going to see here in a second. Let me do that again. By his power, he stilled the sea. By his understanding, he shattered Rahab. By his wind, the heavens were made fair. His hand pierced the fleeing serpent. So Rahab was the name of a fleeing serpent in the sea. So that's what we're talking about in verses 12 and 13 here. There was a serpent that lived in the sea that Jehovah pierced by his hand. Now this is in the book of Job, so this is long before what's going on in Egypt. So we'll wait and get into that more when we get into the book of Job. But I just wanted you to kind of see that a serpent can be either in the sea or on land. Okay, in Isaiah, so that serpent actually had a name, Rahab. That was the serpent's name. In Isaiah, we have another serpent. Isaiah 27:1. In that day, the Lord with his hard and great and strong sword will punish Leviathan, the fleeing serpent, Leviathan, the twisting serpent, and he will slay the dragon that is in the sea. So again, this serpent is in the sea. Whether it's the same one or not, we'll get to later. But this is again another serpent with a name, Leviathan. All right, when we get to the New Testament, I'm going to just look at a couple of passages here, because things do change here. You know, when you got be wise as serpent, gentle as doves. Well, that's a metaphor. Well, that's actually a simile. And so we're not going to look at those. What we're looking at is seeing how the word is used to actually describe a noun. So in 2 Corinthians 11:3, but I am afraid, Paul says that I'm afraid that as the serpent deceived Eve, by his cunning your thoughts will be led astray. So he is saying here, again, the serpent deceived Eve. So that's just a summary of what we're going to be studying in chapter 3. All right, let's look at Revelation 12. Now, we're not going to get into all the details of Revelation yet, but we're going to take a look at how serpent is used. Now, war arose in heaven. Michael and his angels fighting against the dragon. And the dragon and his angels fought back. But he was defeated, and there was no longer any place for them in heaven. And the great dragon was thrown down, that ancient serpent, who is called Slanderous and the Adversary, deceiving all the inhabited world. He was thrown down to the earth, and his angels were thrown down with him. I don't think I need to read all. Well, actually, I can. Let me go ahead and read on some more. And I heard a loud voice in heaven saying, "Now the salvation and the power and the kingdom of our God and the authority of his Christ have come. For the accuser of our brothers has been thrown down, who accuses them day and night before our God. And they have conquered him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony, for they loved not their lives even unto death. Therefore rejoice, O heavens, and you who dwell in them. But woe to you, O earth and sea, for the slanderer has come down to you in great wrath, because he knows that his time is short." So let's back up and look at what we're looking at here. So we've got the word dragon, and that dragon is also called the ancient serpent, or serpent of old, maybe in some of your translations, who is called, now in my personal translation, it's called Slanderous and the Adversary. In yours, it might be called the devil and Satan. There is no such name as devil, or there's no such name as Satan. Those are church words, and you will find out, if you haven't figured this out yet, that I'm death on church words. So we're going to be trying to get rid of all of those as we go through our different passages. So the word for devil means the slanderer or slanderous, depending on if it's a noun or an adjective. This is actually an adjective, and so when they say who is called the devil grammatically cannot be an adjective. That is a noun with a definite article. So there is no noun or definite article here. Now in the next word there is a noun and a definite article, and so it can't be called Satan. It is called the adversary. So devil should be translated in this case slanderous, and Satan should be translated the adversary. So let me say that again. The great dragon was thrown down, that ancient serpent who is called slanderous and the adversary. Deceiving all the inhabited world. I'm saying these things from memory and I have to relearn them, right? Deceiving all the inhabited world. So that would be basically the Roman world at that time. He was thrown down to the earth. And then all of his angels were thrown down with him. So we've got a battle going on between Michael and his angels and the dragon and his angels. And this battle is what we're going to see off and on all throughout the Bible. It's really a battle that is happening in the background all throughout. Okay, this dragon, this serpent, who is slanderous and the adversary, who deceives the inhabited world, he accused also all of the brothers, and basically he tells lies about them. He's a slanderer, so he's telling lies. That's what that is talking about. And then he's mad because he knows he only has a short bit of time. All right, so that's the only parts that we want to pick out there of what is going on. Who is this serpent? So to me, I am pretty sure that this is the same serpent, the ancient serpent, the serpent of old, as in Genesis chapter 3. I don't see any reason why it would not be. And if you know of some reason why it would be some other serpent, then let me know. But it seems to me like it is. We see that same serpent again in Revelation 20. Then I saw the angel coming down from heaven, holding in his hand the key to the abyss and a great chain. And he sees the dragon, that ancient serpent, who is slanderous and the adversary, and bound him for 1,000 years. So this is the same dragon, the same serpent, the same one who's slanderous and is an adversary to them, and threw him into the abyss. So, and then he, after 1,000 years, he'd be released for a little while. So we're not going to go into any of that. All right. So we've got those sections in Revelation are showing us a little bit different description of who this serpent is, right? Okay. Now, some people will say that James is telling us that something different is going on here. So let's take a look at that. In James 1, verse 13, let no one say when he is tempted, I am being tempted by God, for God cannot be tempted with evil, and he himself tempts no one. But each person is tempted when he is lured and enticed by his own desire. Then desire, when it has conceived, gives birth to sin, and sin, when it is fully grown, brings forth death. Now, what James is saying here, what James is saying here, I had to think for a minute. What James is saying here is true, definitely. And this applies to each one of us. This is one of those general principles that applies throughout all time. It doesn't matter if this was written directly to us or not. It still applies. We can't blame anyone else for the decisions that we make in life. So we can't say, the devil made me do it. Okay, I actually detest it when people say that. It's take responsibility for your inactions. No, you are the one who did it. The devil is not standing there. Satan's not standing there. The adversary is not standing there. The slanderous one's not standing there. The serpent's not standing there. The dragon's not standing there. Nobody is standing there with a gun to your head making you do any certain thing. We each choose for ourselves what we are going to do. When we see something that entices us, that tempts us, something that we know is not in our own best interest or anyone else's best interest, then we can I just realized how the light on this screen is affecting the light on the video, sorry. But so then when we're tempted that way, then if we dwell on that thought, then we're going to eventually act on it. If we turn away and run away from that, and we're like, no, I'm not even going to give any time of day to that thought, then it doesn't actually turn into, I didn't want to use the word sin, it doesn't turn into any actions that are going to be harmful to anyone. So that's how it applies to us. That's how it applied to the first century. But it's not necessarily talking about Adam and Eve here, because there are times when someone is tempted by someone or something else. And certainly in Adam and Eve's case, they were. It wasn't that they dreamed this up on their own. We have zero indication that that happened. So to apply this passage to Adam and Eve is a lot of eisegesis, and it's just connecting dots that don't have any business being connected. So while it's a general principle that holds true for all time, it doesn't hold true for all occasions, because there are times when certain people are tempted beyond what they are able to handle. And that's certainly what happened with Adam and Eve, right? Okay, so some people will say it was just Adam. Adam was the one who was the serpent, and he was tempting Eve. But as we go through this passage, I think that we'll see that that makes no sense whatsoever. Some people will say it's just Eve's imagination. She was doing it to herself. Nope, that one doesn't make any sense either. So every indication is that it was a real serpent, a dragon. So a little bit different than just your typical rattlesnake. But I also think it was embodied by one of the gods. Now, we often call him Satan or the devil, but those are just church words again, which just mean the adversary or the slanderer, and not his name. The battle of the gods is a major theme of the Bible, and we're going to see how this battle plays out all throughout Scripture. So this will be the last lesson for this week, and I'll be back on Monday. You guys have a great weekend. Talk to you later. Bye.